I mean, by the way, that was February 22nd, 2022, like since the day of the invasion. 100% it hurt your credibility. It's why I said about correcting hater videos, but I don't get why you don't talk about it. My friend, I just told you, like even in this video and even in that entire week, we put the Vladimir Putin is bad logo on the screen. It's on the screen. What are you talking about? It's been 2 years. The only thing that was wrong was that I made the assessment off of what Zelensky was personally saying. I made the assessment off of what Russian people were saying. I made the assessment off of what Ukrainian people were saying. People can rewrite that history all day, every day. I apologize for it, and we moved on. The problem is, no matter what happens, like even though the Western world very openly, every step of the way, proved me right, people are also hardliners. People are also hardliners on this position. They've already dug their heels in. So the worse the situation happens in Ukraine, the more people will yell at me over it because they don't want to go back and recognize, you know? Please don't rehash this shit. These are not good faith chatters. No, I think they are. I think there's a very real amount of people that are in this community that watch the videos of people that are doing obviously bad faith attacks, and they get duped into believing it. One of the most unfortunate parts about being like a baby progressive is that you're really doughy-eyed, and certain things that can manipulate you quickly. Like the Yemen slavery one, I think is a great example. Like liberals will move quick to be like, pulling out of Afghanistan is bad because Afghan women. And then they try to put you in a bind to justify maintaining the occupation in Afghanistan, right? And you go, well, but I like women. I think women should be protected. So wait, what? Maybe you're right. The Taliban are actually ruthless against women. What are we supposed to do? Oh no. And that is how it works. Is how it operates. So I do believe 100% a lot of people that are in here watch that kind of stuff and do get manipulated into legitimately thinking that like I am. You bring up this Ukraine shit almost once a week for 2 fucking years. You read this shit a million fucking times and no one fucking cares because it's not about being consistent. These liberal debate lords are just as stupid as every other generation of Americans who turn a blind eye to the current injustices. Okay, but I don't want to cut them off. I want to be charitable, and I want to make people understand my position. I have a piece of good faith criticism. I really dislike when you pop the fuck off on new chatters and great names who, in my view, are truly being curious and open-minded. I know you get a lot of bad faith chats, so it's hard to tell between them. I know this is precisely the reason why I'm trying to be more chill this year and be more charitable to those in the chat. And I think I've been maintaining that pretty well so far. I haven't done that in the past 18 days. We got too many greasy loser drama YouTubers making videos on you. And those videos are kind of popping off. I'm not saying you're wrong about your coverage of Israel, but I also think you should try to remain an air of neutrality when covering stories when a clear picture isn't there yet. Like not pretend to be neutral between the two sides, but at least don't assume blame when there isn't a precedent for it. Like I already mentioned, I think that it would be an injustice to actual coverage for me to look at a hospital that Israel had bombed 2 days prior, have the guys on the ground, the doctors say Israel has been calling us, and for me to go, I wonder who did this. We still don't know, which ironically I did. I did say that. I said there's still a likelihood that this might not be Israel, but that likelihood in my assessment is low. That's it. Even when there is precedent. Yeah, no, I'm not. I think it would be ridiculous for me to sit there and tell you what I don't believe. That's it. Like nothing about my assessment of the Israel Palestine issue has not changed. And if your framework has changed in that time frame because you were like, well, there was a likelihood that this might not have been Israel, and Hassan said it was actually Israel, and then he said it might not be Israel either, but I didn't even hear that part. And I also personally think that like that is the worst crime here, and not the crime of genocide that Israel is currently engaging in. Then the reality is I can't do much more than that. You know what I mean? Yes, this is the distinction between someone coming in here and asking a question in good faith that is a microaggression, right? I have a level of charitability to those who are coming in with standard questions that people have. There's a standard level of bigotry that I think is understandable due to our environment, right? But there's also, I mean, there's also a boundary there. If that boundary is met, if that boundary is met and passed, right? I'm not going to, I'm going to tell you what my genuine, truthful opinion is, and I'm probably not going to back down from it. But I do want people to ask me questions and be, and be a little bit nicer. But whenever people come in and are spamming, whenever people come in and are basically spamming stuff like, oh, Pallywood is real, like Hamas fucked around, then find out. Like in that situation, like that breaks the boundary. If people this far out after Israel has destroyed every single hospital, pretty much with the exception of one in Gaza, are still talking about the Al Ahli hospital, when Israel also lied about Al Shifa and said Al Shifa had the Hamas headquarters underneath it, and then even said they didn't bomb Al Shifa, and then it turns out that they definitely did bomb Al Shifa, and then claimed that there was a Hamas headquarters underneath it, and then they didn't really find anything underneath it that was all too serious, and we just kind of forgot and moved on. It's kind of hard for, I think it's kind of hard for me to sit here and act like, I have to capitulate to those who come in with that overwhelming amount of like liberal information that they've slammed in there that has normalized their position. Even if that is the normative position, and unfortunately in the United States of America, especially for news watchers and news consumers, that certainly is the normative position, that like Israel is infallible, and yeah, sure, they get stuff wrong sometimes, but ultimately they're trying their very best. Like that is the vibe that you get. Is silly. I'm sorry. I want you to, I want to be as nice as I can, and I think I am, but there is definitely a level that I will not go beyond. Here, Elent News says people obsessing over Al Ahli when we have numerous examples of Israeli strikes they've admitted to, which have confirmed casualties substantially higher than that strike, and provides clear examples of Israel's reckless targeting, which constitute war crimes. Then people wonder why you and others have an initial conclusion when an explosion occurs. Yeah, there's a reason why the BBC, CNN, New York Times, and Al Jazeera all immediately suspected Israel of doing this bombing at Al Ahli, right? And I personally believe one of the worst things that they all collectively did was let the next 2 weeks of coverage be overtaken by accusations of anti-Semitism for making that assessment, and then genuinely changing their style guide to use way more neutral language that doesn't just take the blame away from Israel, but behaves as though Israel is a cop in a police shooting situation. Like the amount of headlines that I've read since then that always say like explosion occurs, casualties of Palestinians by the hundreds. Yeah. I didn't make up this assertion on my own. I came to this conclusion off of the articles that I read and the readily available information at the time, while also overqualifying over and over again over the course of a 10-hour broadcast. Of course, over the course of a 10-hour broadcast, after responding to the 15th bad faith guy who says Israel would never actually bomb a hospital, yeah, I'm going to pop off on them and be like, you're a genocidal piece of shit. Because I do think that a person that says Israel would never bomb a hospital is a genocidal piece of shit. They are defending Israel's genocide. Israel, in my assessment, and in the assessment of genocide scholars, Holocaust historians, international international assessors, the United Nations, and perhaps the International Court of Justice, as a matter of fact. Let's see how that goes. And Human Rights Watch and other NGOs is one, an apartheid state, and two, currently absolutely operating with genocidal intent and following through on their interest in conducting an ethnic cleansing campaign. That's it. If you're this far out and still confused by things of this nature, that's not if you're still this far out and confused by those factually accurate assessments, then I don't know if I can ever change your mind, really. I hope that one day you will see the error in your ways, though. I think that, eventually you will. I'm softly curious why IDF would just try to justify an act that they reject that they committed. I think the tunnels under the hospital argument was crafted just so the media found better and more conclusive evidence or public opinion changed, and then they would have the civilian shields argument. Yeah. Here's another great example. Remember when everybody yelled at me specifically about the from the river to the sea? Okay. Which, by the way, once people started dunking on it, it seems like I-24 News deleted it or something. I don't know what's happening. Benjamin Netanyahu literally said on I-24 on the broadcast that, from the west of the Jordan, the entire area will be controlled by Israel, reaffirming a part of the Likud charter. Now, of course, remember, everybody was yelling at me, saying I'm ridiculous
for 30 years.
Saying I'm ridiculous for saying that, like, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is not genocidal rhetoric, because it's not. It's not genocidal rhetoric. When Palestinians say it, it's not genocidal rhetoric. Okay? When Israel says it, it is genocidal rhetoric. For quite a time now, for quite a long time, it made me feel like I was crazy, that I could see things so clearly, and yet people would come in and act like the things I could see clearly, and maybe you could too, were actually false. By the way, I forgot to even fucking blast off at this point. I think that a lot of people have no clear convictions that in this process, and simply, unfortunately, champion whatever whoever is like making a very charismatic case. And for a very long time, I benefited from being relatively unknown and not like the beacon of all things left. So people, when they came in to the community, were much more charitable to what I had to say. Okay? I get some of your haters are deranged, but a good portion have some legitimate criticisms, and every single one of those videos pop off. They do. They do pop off because they masquerade as good faith criticism when it's actually bad faith. I'm sorry. I'm trying to respond to everything that you've said so far, but you haven't really brought anything forward that is good faith. Or at least, like, you haven't shown me who you think has legitimate criticisms or what those legitimate criticisms are. I'm looking for it. This is not something I shy away from. We do self-crit in here, and I do openly admit when I'm wrong. Probably one of the worst things to do, really. But you haven't really addressed what you're talking about. And yes, those niche videos do pop off. People with like 10K subs can do a fuck Hassan video, and it will get elevated by every single one of the communities that despises me. So many people's politics have basically turned into I am against whatever Hassan says they are says he's in support of. So like I think sometimes you're very quick to pop off on someone who just wants clarification. Okay, you're right about that. And I said that this is something that I am trying to get better at. And for the past 18 days, I haven't done that. And I think I'm doing very well. I would go so far as to say that you're currently testing my patience, and yet notice how I haven't yelled at you. But you didn't mention anything else. You said, I guess some of your haters are deranged, but a good portion have some legitimate criticisms. Every single one of those videos pop off. I promise I'm being good faith. I'm just trying to help regrow the community, is what you said. A lot of those people are never going to come back. We must move on from the idea that those who think we must move on from the idea that those who think I'm pro Russia, those who think I think China should kill everyone in Taiwan or whatever, or those who think that I fly around in private jets, those who think that I have engaged in sex trafficking of minors, you know what I mean? Like there's a degree of things that people are very upset about, and they're all equally insane in my opinion. And it varies from things that other normal content creators would do that no one would even think twice about, but when I do it, it's completely unacceptable, all the way to straight up lies, all the way to, bastardized positions that make it seem like I'm the exact opposite of what I actually believe in, all the way to like insane, actionable, like legally actionable defamation. So a multitude of all of those concepts together create the overall air of toxicity. Okay? All of that creates an air of toxicity, and there's not much I can do about it. I think your hater skepticism come from your confidence and firm delivery of the message. Some people want an unsure, unknowledgeable, and unserious seamer so they can see a reflection of themselves. That's not true. I think all of the people that despise me are very confident in their approach, even if they're completely oblivious to the facts of the matter. So that's it. If anything, I do also agree would make our jobs easier if you had a whole video debunking shit. We could just timestamp and correct mode when assholes start lying, just like you did with the one saying Armenian genocide happened, so we can quickly debunk them with your own words. All of those videos exist. All of those videos exist. My answer to you guys, if you're confused on any particular matter, is go to my YouTube, type in whatever the keyword is that you're trying to find, and show them that video. You will notice that a lot of the people that get very passionately upset oftentimes find themselves in the throes of straight up Nazis. They might not personally have those kinds of perspectives, of course, but they quickly find themselves swarmed with others who do, like very openly, as a matter of fact. People being like, he's such a roach. Okay? And that's how it goes. Yeah, I know. He didn't say from the river to the sea. He said from the west of Jordan. But anyway, I think people know you for your wrong or perhaps stronger takes due to social media clips, and thus the feedback loop of confirmation bias doesn't even allow people the opportunity to view your takes without those assumptions. Yes, but the greatest way to deal with that misinformation is to show people the truth. Honestly, it's just comically easy to do character assassination against you. You've been online for so long and entrenched in so much controversy that on top of your aesthetic and political views makes it trivial to pump out a half-hour hit piece that would take basically no research, it's hard to come back from that or address it at that point. I agree. Exactly. Most criticism of you I've heard are basically he thinks America bad. He's an immigrant plus bad guy. Yeah, anybody that's spending a bunch of time making videos criticizing perspective isn't good faith. They're trying to draw on viewers. If they cared about a given issue, that would be the focus, not how Hassan is wrong about something. Thank you. Exactly. An issue that I tried to bring up with Willie Mack on his video, where Willie Mack didn't even know that BBC had called it for Israel on the Al Ahli hospital. Okay, Willie Mack made a video on me about how my coverage was wrong and didn't even realize that every single mainstream media outlet had said that Israel was responsible for this bombing. I'm sure that he left that part out of the videos that he has made since then. Okay. But it doesn't matter because then XQC will watch it and his audience is already super geared towards hating me over years and years of us duking it out. And then those guys go around and say, yeah, that's right. Muda is a friend of Willie Mack. Yeah, I saw that. That made me very sad. Hassan only gets worse. And then it's like 5 minutes in and I'm flabbergasted at the misreporting. And no, he's definitely not talking about Willie Mack on his misreporting. He's talking about my misreporting, which is shocking. The issue is that however, that you know, it's kind of like this. If you're from a marginalized background, if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're black, right? And the entire world around you is anti-trans, anti-black, homophobic. You're a woman and everyone around you is misogynistic. You already know that, like, it's much easier to cut commentary against that position and have plenty of people agree with it. Okay? That's it. It's that simple. It's not any more difficult to assess than that. I'm obviously none of those things, but I ride for those issues. And this is the exact same. If everyone around you is from liberal all the way to right-wing reactionaries, if everyone around you has like a pro-America does whatever it wants and it's always correct, even if I reluctantly admit sometimes it's not correct, it's usually in the direction of correct. And it's much better to ensure that America maintains its hegemonic superpower status than not, because God forbid, I'm terrified of what happens if China, like, gets some clout, I guess, in the global scale. If that's your genuine assessment, and many people, like the overwhelming majority of individuals, it's so much easier to operate on heuristics as a reactionary than any kind of thoughtful analysis. Exactly. I like how no one gives you any leeway for being wrong when you're covering things live and you can misspeak while they're all behind edited YouTube videos. Yeah, 100%. But people don't think about it that way. They think about it as like a fully flushed out finished product when they're looking at this. Also, let me make a joke about this. This happened to the Young Turks a long time ago. Young Turks was one of the very few, but definitely the most prominent left-wing, left-leaning, progressive broadcaster at the time in independent media. Every single right-wing and every single centrist, like Sargon of Akkad, considering themselves centrist at the time, okay, They all picked every minutia apart from TYT. They belittled TYT all the time. I caught strays at the time as well. Okay? Of course. And unfortunately, when the internet is on a reactionary bend once again, due to conditions completely outside of our control, like Joe Biden being the president, things will always get worse. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of stopped watching you after some time. I didn't know. I didn't like how Leftovers ended, but I was upset how, like, you've been a 3-year subscriber and you're saying you didn't like how Leftovers ended. This was the Richard Wolf interview. I started watching after your Palestinian coverage. I think it's important for you to call out people that are saying wrong things regardless of their affiliation. Yeah. See, that's a great take. Do you think that I'm pro Russia? Also, it is not my, like, that was not my situation. Like, I didn't do that. I watch way less because we have this talk way too often. That's not true. And this isn't hater talk. This is a struggle session. And I do think that it is relatively productive. What is this? A frank good faith criticism, just like AJ and Rose has commented. You need to make more structured content, period. I used to listen to all your takes, but over time I found myself finding other opinions of events because they were more detailed. Now when I think of Hassan, I think you are the Lord How How of left-wing media. I don't know what Lord Ha Ha means. Have you ever considered it's not you that is the problem, but the community that could be the problem? Pepega, I haven't seen anyone say this yet. This community has been slowly growing with more and more very loud people who hate America on every single situation and want to see it fall instead of trying to improve the United States and the world as well. It's cringe to me and seems in bad faith. You can call me a liberal or a bootlicker, etc. What? I think America is objectively in the wrong on, even what here, Ukraine is a great example of America being morally on the right side of an issue while still being in the wrong. Does that make sense, Gunna Burns? I hope you understand that. Like, I don't know if you're looking for nuance or not, but most of this community is American. The idea that, like, these people want America to be destroyed entirely is silly. It's like saying I'm an anti-white racist. Saying the overwhelming majority of Americans in this country that are watching me want America to, like, perish entirely, myself included, okay, is as laughable as the assertion that I am an anti-white racist. Okay? Please do not fall for these incredibly primed, like, silly framing of issues that are ironically reductive while claiming that my arguments are reductive. It's a case of projection. Your haters are going to start using good faith and bad faith? I mean, probably. We know what you want to do to Jews. Wait, what? What are you saying? Are you okay, chatter? I think my biggest problem is that I yell too much and I get passionate and people can frame it as though I'm, like, crying or something, and that's not good. Or if I do yell, I probably should yell in a very limited capacity. That's it. I see what you're trying to do, but some people don't deserve any faith. They do. Anyway, let's get to the news. Okay? The news that it is almost 2 p.m., which means it's the top of the hour, which means there's a 3-minute ad break. No one is saying America is bad, thus Americans are bad. We are not nationalists. Yeah, a lot of the people that say Hassan's entire framework is America bad sound exactly like the 9/11 reactionaries. The people that were like, oh, America deserved 9/11. Dude, Hassan wants 9/11 to happen multiple times, okay? He wants 9/11 to happen over and over and over again. Is that what I said? Or was I talking about a concept such as blowback? So that's the hilarious part about this. The irony is that so many people who champion that because it's so far in the past are now saying the exact same criticisms as though these are valid criticisms. If folks like D-Man retires, Destiny retires, I get 30% less hate. If Destiny retires, I get 70% less hate. 1,000,000%. It's his community that is like so aggressive, and they infiltrate other communities, and like they fester and are the actual reason for so much of the bad faith criticism. And because they've been embedded in here for a very long time, some were fans, yes, 100%. Like he has a assortment of a diverse array of ideology from people from like ideological backgrounds that make no sense, like from liberals all the way to like the worst types of Nazis that all collectively unite under one very good umbrella. And that very comfortable umbrella is Hassan bad, always and forever.